So the way that we're going to run this evening is I hope that you will have received this afternoon from Mr. Gillies a reminder not just about this event and the logins, but also the links to the various departmental videos where you can go in your own time. So the Peters version of iPlayer streaming on demand and actually just explore there the departmental videos about what happens with those subjects at A level. I'm sure that this will be referenced by Mrs. Mallard and Mr. Gillies as we go through this evening, but this is not your only opportunity to talk to the staff here at school and to find out more. So we're going to hear from Mrs. Mallard as head of sixth form, who's going to be talking to us a little bit about the wider picture of life at St. Peter's in the sixth form and the opportunities that there are and how it differs from your time as you come through the school. And then we're going to go across to Mr. Gillies, who is going to talk to us about the process and the mechanics of choosing the A-level subjects. So I'm going to put us onto a PowerPoint presentation now. So the next thing you should see is a slide and then Mrs. Mallard's voice talking us through it. So here we go.
Okay, so what is sixth form like at St. Peter's? Sixth form pupils are an integral part of our school and very much at the heart of our community here at Peters. Sixth form offers the opportunity for pupils to not only narrow their subject interests and look in depth at their chosen courses, but also for them to embrace new opportunities, both inside and outside the classroom. They'll meet new challenges, enjoy the new opportunities and freedom that being a member of the sixth form at St. Peter's can offer. Sixth form students are offered more opportunities to fuel their intellectual curiosity and show both a willingness to work part as a team and as the wider St. Peter's community, alongside relishing the opportunity to become more independent. Essentially, as I'm sure you're aware, St. Peter's pupils are enthusiastic. It's their have-a-go attitude and willingness to take part that defines them, never more so than as a member of our sixth form. Our sixth form curriculum has been created to give pupils a wide breadth of learning, looking at both their A-level studies and at their co-curricular activities. Intellectual curiosity is what drives sixth form academic study. Pupils work alongside dedicated, enthusiastic staff in order to look at depth at their chosen subjects. And this is something Mr. Gillies will talk about in more depth in a moment. We are especially conscious of this period of transition and development. Pupils are continued to be supported throughout by their house team, so their house parents and tutors, alongside teaching staff offering support and guidance. The Higher Education and Careers Department play a huge part in a sixth former's life, preparing pupils for careers, university, and covering all entries and courses and countries, including Oxbridge and American admissions. Sixth form also offers you study periods and specific places for study, such as the library and the Pascal workspace, alongside your house space for relevant downtime during breaks and lunch. What else will you be doing? Co-curricular continues and widens even further in its choice of options. There is also a wide range of other activities alongside the co-curricular programme to prepare you for life after Peters. There are societies, academic extension, field trips, many residential and day trips, and community action. There is a diverse sixth form lecture programme with speakers on a wide range of subjects to broaden both thinking and experience. Alongside this, we have careers talks and events, including elements such as study skills. We also run a lower sixth exploration week. All pupils in the sixth form also study an enrichment programme, STEP. It's an exciting aspect of the sixth form course, preparing pupils for their next steps beyond St. Peter's. We look at things such as CPSHE, careers, finance, interview skills, diversity and inclusion, and even do some cooking. So sixth form should be one of the most exciting times in a young person's life. And we hope beyond everything else that pupils are offered a sense of fun and community that they've already been accustomed to at school, ensuring that they continue to enjoy their time here with us and that they leave St. Peter's confidently prepared and supported for their next steps.
Right, just before I pass over to Mr. Gillies, just so you know that at the end of Mr. Gillies sort of talking us through the process for selecting A-levels and the structure of how that works, we're going to then do a Q&A session at the end. Now, with so many screens up there, it's very difficult for us to actually see people, even if, no matter how much you wave your hands around, it's very difficult. So if you would like to use the chat function, please, and then we'll just go through any questions which you've got at the end of that presentation. Before I pass over to Mr. Gillies, just to reiterate something which Mrs. Mallard just said, which is that basically, I mean, one of the best things about school is sixth form. Those 2 incredibly busy years, jam-packed full of lots of different things. Whatever your game is, you're rising to be at the top of it, and you get to actually shape the nature of the school as much as just be part of it as well. So they really are exciting. The one thing I would say, and I'm sure many parents will be aware of this, is that if there's a cruelty about sixth form life, is that it goes so incredibly quickly. And certainly as families, we notice how rapidly our boys and girls sort of grow up, and before we know it, think about getting out of the house and moving on as well. So we'll come back to, as I say, if I put some thoughts in your minds now as to be thinking of any questions you'd like to ask, by all means start bunging them into the chat whenever you'd like to do so, and then once we've heard from Mr. Gillies, we'll then pick up those and go through them as quickly as we can. Right, going to share the screen again and pass over to Mr. Gillies.
Thank you. Right, well, good evening. So the sort of subtitle of what I'm going to talk about is choice and change. I'm going to be talking about the choices which are available for A-level. And I think it's important to stress that there is no necessarily a good set of choices or bad set of choices. There are the right choices for individuals, and it's really important that what I'm going to say tonight is really about how you might go about it. Many of you will have already made your decisions or have coming close to that, but it's just worth checking back as have you sort of followed this sort of thinking process to get to your choices. So this is part of a process. We've been talking to the pupils in the last couple of days at lunchtime about new subjects in the curriculum which come into the A-levels. We've got another 3 weeks of term during which we do encourage parents to contact us to discuss ideas about subject choice, pupils to talk to their teachers in the subjects they're interested in, talk to the careers department, talk to myself, Mrs. Mallard, and to their housemaster, housemistress, or their tutor. So discussion is really important about in this process. At the moment, those of you who did those pupils who did the Moresby test, you will be having the follow-up interviews with that, which is just sort of going through the outcomes of that. But regardless of that, everyone in fifth form will be meeting with a member of the careers team just to get them to start to think about not only what's happening next year for them, but beyond that as well. So where we are now is just talking about the basic structure of the A-level courses. So the first thing is there are everyone will choose 3 A-level courses as a minimum, and nearly everyone will also choose a 4th course of some sort. So this 4th course, it may be a 4th A-level. That's the most common path. It may be the extended project qualification, or it may be further maths, creating a 4th and possibly a 5th subject. The 5th would only occur if you had 4 subjects plus further maths. So that's the basic structure there. And the challenge is always, which one would we go with? Now, this structure then moves from the sort of 3+ model in the lower 6th to 3 A-level courses in the upper 6th. So at some point during the lower 6th or at the end of the lower 6th, for instance, the extended project qualification would be finished. Each pupil would choose to discontinue one of their 4 A-levels, and even if you were doing the 5th with the further mathematics, you would almost certainly drop one of those courses there. Now, that can be a challenge to decide which one to drop, but we do feel that it's, for most pupils, 4 courses in the lower 6th year, or for a part of the lower 6th year, moving to 3 in the upper 6th is the best combination to both have some breadth in the wider sense of education, but also to ensure that the strongest grades are possible moving forward for whatever is your plan after St. Peter's. So what are the choices? Well, they're the range of choices we have. Those subjects which are in green are subjects which you can start not having done them at GCSE. A number of them, such as PE, art history, politics, and others there, are brand new in the upper six, so no one in the E group would have done that. There are a couple of others, such as classical civilization, design, technology, drama, art, which can be, and history, which can be studied even if you haven't studied them at GCSE level. And if you're interested in that, please do go and talk to the teachers of those subjects, and they can give you some further guidance on that. So that's the range of choices there, but how do you actually choose them? Well, it's sort of very simple, but sort of quite difficult. We've got three principles here: enjoyment, ability, and need. And I think the order in that is quite important. Choose what you enjoy, and it's probably what you're good at, and what you're good at is probably what you're going to need if the course or the career you want to pursue after St. Peter's does have specific requirements. So that's really the equation. What you enjoy, that'll be what you're good at, and this should match your university choice. If something goes awry in that little sequence, then it probably means that you need to work out what you really do enjoy, or what the university course, the work, the degree apprenticeship, or whatever you want to do they really match up with what your strengths and your passions are? So that's sort of all there is to choosing. You simply find out what you enjoy, what you think you're going to enjoy, because of course some of the subjects are ones you haven't as yet, you have not as yet encountered, and this should be the basis of your choice. Now, many of you will find that that will get you down to maybe 5 or 6 subjects, and you need to get down to 4 subjects. That's when you really need to try and get a good sense of what the subject is like at A level. Now, obviously, if it's a brand new subject, you know in your own, common sense will tell you that you don't really know at this point what, let us say, economics or art history is going to be like. But you should also be very careful to really get a sense of what the subjects you already are studying are like. History is similar but not the same at GCSE and A level. English is similar but not the same at A level. And that just on that subject, it's worth noting that at GCSE you do both English language and English literature, and at A level it is English literature, which is often. So it's those sorts of things. There's also going to be important to, if you're interested in business and economics, to understand exactly what the difference between those two subjects are. So it's important that you really get as much information about what the subjects are like at A level to help you make your course, make your choices, because it's what you enjoy is what you'll be good at. Okay, now the final thing I want to say is just about work experience. We've talked about subjects, but what we also really strongly recommend, when we say recommend, it is an essential part of pupils being educated from the age of 16, 17, 18, is that you undertake some sort of work experience. Now, there are a couple of different reasons why work experience is important. The first one is that it just introduces you to the adult world of work, and that's an important thing in itself. Secondly, it may help you understand better the sort of careers and planning that you want to, the careers you might want to go into, and that may inform things like whether you want to do a degree apprenticeship. It might inform what sort of course you want to study at university, or whether you want to go to university or college or go straight into work. So it's important there. The third reason for doing work experience is that for some courses, it is necessary or highly desirable to do that. Vocational courses are the sort of ones where it's going to be important there. For something like engineering, it is a very good idea to have some experience of what engineering is like, so that you can talk about it and persuade people, university courses, that you are genuinely interested in it. When you come to things such as vet and medicine and dentistry, you have to do work experience if you are going to make a successful application, and the various university websites, the careers department and so forth, can advise you on the character of that sort of work experience which is required there. So there are a number of reasons for doing it. They can combine, but it should be part of everyone's program. We do help with that. We have a good list of contacts. And we will also be asking parents if you have contacts yourselves, or if you're willing to take people for work experience. It adds to our capacity to add that to your database, to our database, I should say, of possible work experience opportunities. And part of the reason we've got a rich range of opportunities is the generosity of people through our connections, through parents particularly. So. That is a very brief run through the process. So the process is the key thing. You do need to work out what you enjoy, use what is available to get that sense, and talk to us. One thing I haven't, or the headmaster mentioned a few minutes ago, is that there's also a series of short videos which are available in the link in the email I sent you a short time ago, which gives you a little bit more background there. But face-to-face talking, pupils talking to the teachers, parents, if you want to contact any of the heads of department, please do so. Drop them an email to discuss things, so you can help advise your children. But remember, ultimately, it is the pupil's choice. And when in the very few number of occasions where pupils have made the wrong choice, unfortunately, it has very often been sort of pushed or nudged by parents into slightly the wrong direction. So pupils, it's your choice. It's a great opportunity, and we'll help you make those choices, but they have to be yours in the end.
Okay, right. Thank you very much, Duncan. Just to go through, so we've got some questions that have come in. I think you may be able to see them all yourselves out there. So just going to sort of pick up some of the questions here. Right then, so do you have to drop your 4th A-level before the upper 6th, or can you continue doing 4? There's a question about lower 6th exploration, which we'll come back to. Should you do only business studies or economics, not both? And pretty certain I saw one there, but can I clarify the 4th A-level? Is it normal to begin with 4 A-levels and an EPQ? If that's the case, at what stage? I think I'll start with that question there, because it overlaps into 2 or 3 things. As Mr. Gillis was explaining, we really strongly promote that even if you're going to end up doing 3, and as forever, with the exception of certain courses where further mathematics is a strong contender alongside other things for university entrance, the universities and higher education providers are typically looking for your 3 best results from your 3 good A-levels. So the goal, I suppose, is to ultimately, at the end of the upper 6th, be sitting typically three subjects there, and some of our pupils will do 4. How to get to those 3? Now that we no longer have the old AS and A2 system, where you had sort of exams at the end of the year 1 and then again at the end of year 2, it's given a lot more flexibility back into the game. So that's why we get this really strong encouragement to start off with 4 A-level subjects. And that's because even if it's there are some, of course, which are brand new to you joining into the 6th form, others will be different simply because the step from GCSE to A-levels can be quite large in some of the subjects. So by starting with 4 subjects, it gives you a really good, strong sense of it, if you like, as a try before you firmly buy, as it were. And we strongly encourage you to do the 4th one all the way through to the end of the Christmas term. Now, obviously, many pupils will get a feeling on at some point in that term that they already know what they think their 3 are going to be. We still encourage the 4th to get a really considered opinion. The other factor to it, of course, is that even if you don't end up with a qualification out of the 4 subject you did for a term, you will get good cultural and knowledge capital out of the studies that you've done. And so keep going on that as you go through. Picking up the EPQ notion, so some pupils will start the EPQ as they begin their time in the 6th form. A very common pattern, and one that we promote and support and suggest quite strongly, is the first term. When you're doing 4 A-levels, your timetable will largely be completely full up with the lessons of those 4 A-level subjects. So you're going to be a very, very busy person. You're all Peterites. You know for a fact you're going to be busy people at school in any case. So a really good way that we find of making it work is to do 4 subjects going through into that end of the Christmas term. And then as you drop one and trim down to your typical 3, that's a great point at which to pick up the EPQ. EPQ is a fantastic sort of piece. You can do it, as I think you've mentioned, in terms of an extended essay or a scientific study. It can be a performance piece. It can be a piece of art. It can be lots of different things. It's a great opportunity for sixth formers to really take control and to say, this is what I'm interested in. It's a brilliant way if you want it to be for a calling card for university application, and universities do strongly value the skills and the breadth and the intellectual curiosity that it demonstrates in the pupils. The other nice thing about it is that whereas the other exams, they obviously sit into that summer exam series, is that there's different entrance points for the EPQ. So a typical one is to start it in the January and then to submit it in the November. And in fact, just this morning, I sat in on a presentation of one of our pupils who'd done her EPQ. It was all about designing a brand new sports hall for the school and lots of design and architectural stuff she'd had to go through and do it. And she was obviously completing that in the November of her upper sixth. Got that out of the way now, and then she can then focus on the run into the final A levels. So that's hopefully gives a bit of clarity on that one there. And then just going back on through here. So do you have to drop your 4th A level before the upper 6th week? Can you continue? Well, yes, you can is a simple answer. And it's just something that as pupils go through the 6th form, we work with each other on all these things. If we feel that they're going to be able to complete 4 A levels very successfully, absolutely tremendous. If they're being asked to get by the universities an A star and 2 A's, and there's a concern as we go through that maybe doing the 4th A level is going to stretch them and they're perhaps going to get 3 A grades and a B grade and potentially not satisfy the demands of a highly competitive university. That's the sort of thing that we discuss and talk with pupils and families as they go through the 6th form, but not unusual for pupils to end up with doing 4 all the way through. Right, a question about what is lower 6th exploration week? I think, okay. Ella.
Yeah. It is a week where we're trying to take students a little bit more outside of their comfort zone, so it's beyond the subjects. It's quite focused on being staff-led, so staff will deliver a practical sort of session or a lecture on something they are interested in. So it means that students then have a list that they choose from, so you can do a whole array of things. We do practical things, we get them outside, so often it's about team building as well. We have had the English Speaking Union come in. So again, it's about those things, about getting them ready for the wider world. So we do things about how to speak in public, to get them ready for university, to get them ready for university interviews. So a lot of it is a bit more kind of fun. It tends to come after exams, and it's about exploring other avenues.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I think you can all see this, but a massive thank you to Rithi with the note there about York Dental Practice being happy to take pupils' interest in work. Really massively appreciate. Great example of how the Peterites of Connections book really does work very well. But that's brilliant. We'll grab a note of that email address as well. But thank you. That's really, really kind indeed. The question down the end there: if someone's not very good in maths, can they still take further maths, or will they be asked to leave? Just to confirm, as headmaster, we won't ask you to leave the school if it turns out you're not very good at mathematics. That's entirely all right. But I think I'll pass over to Mr. Gcse for possibly a more sensible and detailed answer.
We'll always give you our best advice about something like that. Further maths is basically 2 maths courses. So if you imagine all you have to do for an A-level maths course, you have to do twice as much of that, and therefore you have to do each bit of maths twice as fast. So while we won't ask you to leave the course, I think the option, the reality would be, if you are struggling with it, you might ultimately get say a B or a C doing normal maths. But if you did normal maths and further maths, your grades are likely to be significantly worse. So we advise, but we don't compel.
Okay, hopefully that clarifies on that one. So looking at some of the other questions which have come in, and don't worry, whoever asked the question about business studies and economics, I haven't lost it. I'm just going to come back to it a bit later on. A-levels each have a syllabus. How is the EPQ approached? Does the student have to come up with a subject? Yes, they do, but with guidance and support. And one of the things I absolutely love about it is that you can do an EPQ in one of your A-level subjects as an area. It cannot be on anything that appears on the actual syllabus that you're going to be examining. It's got to be different. So you can use it as a way of saying, look, I really love history, but I want to explore this element of history that isn't on the A-level programme. If you're interested in medicine, for example, you can do something there, or around dentistry. You can do that to sort of to really help yourself focus in. As you're going through that, so that first term, typically pupils will start to get a sense of the subject areas they're interested in. The main and most important thing about a successful EPQ is having a really good question, a research question that you're interested in answering and looking into. And what happens is you're given some fantastic study skills and research methodology, which is beneficial regardless of the EPQ outside of that as well. And then you're allocated a member of staff as your supervisor. And that's when it does start to feel very similar to sort of undergraduate style work of working with a supervisor who guides you through, checks over the progress. But one of the brilliant things it does is it really promotes independence of thought, because the pupils, they do it, they have to be in the driving seat. And when it comes to sort of doing their presentations and things, they also have to talk about, what did I learn from the process? What didn't go so great? How did I have to shift and change and adapt? And so loads of really fantastic learning things that come up from that one there. I think I will go back to the business and economics question, just on the very rare example. I may sort of neglect to come back to it later on. Do you want to take that one, Duncan?
Yes, certainly. You can do both of them. There's no reason not to do both of them for access to university courses. Universities are happy for you to do both. It does narrow you a little bit. Now, one thing that a number of pupils do is take economics and business as their third and fourth, and then make the decision during the lower six as to which one to do. So there's no reason not to do it. There used to be 10, 15 years ago, but it's not a problem in itself. But do think about breadth. I mean, there's some other really interesting courses out there, and breadth might be it. I think it's really important to have the discussion with the head of economics and business, Mr. White, just so at least you start off knowing what the difference is, and one is probably like to appeal to most people more than the other.
Okay, and whilst we're on subject-specific questions, can you take Chinese for A-level as a subject?
Yes and no. We don't teach it. If you want to sit the exam and the exams are still happening, you can do that. Yes, you can just sit the exam. It's worth noting that it probably won't count for anything at most universities, because they will say, well, those people who are doing Chinese as a subject are probably doing it because they're native speakers. They will be looking for the other three subjects. So there isn't a sort of an advantage there. But if you want to do it, you can certainly sit it, and we can facilitate that. Yes,
that's absolutely not a problem. So a good question here, which is to do with, are there particular GCSE grades required to take particular courses?
Not explicitly. We do say things like you have to be pretty comfortable with maths to do economics. There's a fair bit of maths in that. And for a subject like physics, we would very strongly recommend that you do A-level maths as well. Some people have done it without it, but it is difficult because there is a lot of maths in that. So there aren't lower limits as such, but we will give you a sense of how are you managing. If you're managing it well at GCSE, you'll be able to manage it at A-level. But if you're struggling at GCSE, you will find any subject quite difficult at A-level.
Okay, thank you. And just to keep you in the hot seat, there's a similar question there about Russian language.
Yeah, exactly the same arrangement. If you want to do Russian language, that's fine. It's really just us facilitating you sitting the exam.
Okay, I'm going to go back to a question here, which is a really useful one, because it springboards into a variety of areas. The precise question is the one that says, for pupils who may be unsure as to what they want to do at university, how do we, as families, best engage with academic and career staff to understand how exam choices could affect university course options, either keeping options open or closing options inadvertently? Just before we dive into the heart of that question, I thought it might be useful just to say a few pointers about sort of future destinations. It's absolutely true that for Peterites, the typical destination has been university. It would seem that our pupils, our families, still strongly value the benefit of going forwards to higher education and developing more of a specialism in subjects, whether that is going in things which are going to become vocational studies at university, or keeping the breadth of the subjects that you're enjoying doing at school, or doing something similar but different, like international relations or something of that nature. So that remains sort of the most common pathways for our pupils, and I would put that as being sort of 90 to 95% of our pupils do end up going down that route. Two things to draw to your attention and a side thing. One is the consideration of a gap year, and it's sort of really quite popular. It hasn't been so popular in the last couple of years for fairly obvious reasons. Taking a gap year, whether it's a gap year or you may remember the YouTube videos, the gap year, where Tarquin and his very posh chums sort of go to sort of travel around the world to Goa and so forth. But the notion of the old gap year, which for many of well, my hair's greyer than most of yours, but for those of a generation who remember with great fondness the gap year is the bridging year from school to university. So still quite a large number of our pupils will look into doing a gap year for a variety of reasons. We support them through that, but also we support them through making an application to university in the year after they've left as well. That also applies, by the way, for we always will have some pupils who will get towards the end of their upper sixth. The university choices they've made, they don't want to do those anymore. They want to chop and change, and therefore they want to reapply during the year after they've left school. So we carry on looking after you as you go through there. So gap year, do give it some consideration, do give it some thought, but do make sure it's a bridging year rather than a gap year, is what I always say to people. And then the other thing I just to mention is just about the variety of other options. So we have seen an increasing interest in overseas universities, in America and the such like and so forth. You may or may not know, for those of you interested in medicine, for example, that there are some really interesting European university options. So, for example, out in Prague and out in Madrid, where they adopt a different approach to getting onto the medicine courses. So typically looking for a lower A-level grades than you would need to get into the UK, but then doing a hard cull at the end of the first and second year, teaching in English and accredited by the Gcse. So there's some interesting sort of overseas international stuff on those specific areas. Sometimes people are really attracted by the idea of going overseas to America, for example, and following their sort of, the liberal arts majors, minors and so forth, and getting a very different experience. It is a more complicated application process. That should not deter you if you're interested in it. You do have to do things like the common application thing, or you have to apply to each individual college separately. SATs start to come in and all that sort of thing. But we can guide and support and advise on international applications. And the other strand I wanted to just draw back to your attention are the degree apprenticeships, sometimes called the modern apprenticeships. So degree apprenticeships, they've been growing increasingly in the recent years, and they're in areas such as, for example, engineering or accountancy, those sorts of going forwards into a very firmly professional, highly accredited scenario where you actually end up doing a combination of embarking into the world of work, into a professional life, earning money whilst you're doing that, and also attaining the qualifications of a degree as well. And what we've been finding is that although many of our pupils end up going to a more traditional university route, there's an increasing number who are interested in, at the very least, exploring those options. And indeed, what you can do is you can spread bet. You can actually make applications to those degree apprenticeships and also university applications through Gcse as well to keep your options open. I mean, clearly, the more you do, the more complex it is. You've got to keep a good eye on it, but we've got loads of experience in all these areas and can guide and support you in the thinking, which is a segue, hopefully, back into how families can best engage with academics, career staff, how do exam choices affect university options, either keeping them open or closing them inadvertently. Duncan.
Yeah, the shortest answer to this is do come and talk to us. Just pick up the phone or arrange to come in and talk to myself, to Mrs. Ballard, or their careers department. And I do encourage both parents to do that, and obviously people just to drop in and talk to us. It's a complicated area. The sort of areas one has to be a little bit careful of is around the life sciences, so medicine, vet, dentistry are key ones. But don't assume what seems to be the logical answer is the logical answer. So, for instance, medical courses all require chemistry. Very few of them insist on biology, although the vast majority of medical applicants will do biology. For something like economics, none of the economics courses require you to have done economics or business, but some of them do require you to have done mathematics. So those are the sort of areas. I think engineering is another one which will have particular requirements around usually mathematics and either physics or design technology, but most likely physics, and depending on what sort of engineering you're looking at. So do come and talk to us, but it's those sorts of areas. Architecture is another one, art or design technology. Some of them still want a science, but that's a very small number. So please do, if you've got any concerns there, please do drop us an email, pick up the phone, come and see us, and we can talk through those ones, any of those concerns with you.
Okay, and by all means, so proactively do that through emails, and we're really, really happy to help it. So it's not too difficult at all. Any scholarship or similar awards available in the school? Well, you may or may not be aware, or you may be aware, I'm sure many of you are, that we've actually for a long time not had things like sports scholarships. I'm happy to have a conversation with anybody about that. The broad explanation is that we're very fortunate. We've got a lot of very talented sportsmen and women at the school, and that our feeling is that actually, if we then sort of anoint a small number as being the really sort of the best and strong sportsmen and women, we're not so sure that's really good in terms of the ethos and the vibe of the school. It doesn't stop us, having said that, from having fantastic sort of elite player pathway and support for pupils as well. We have honorary academic scholarships. It's very much a straightforward metric on that one, which is that it's a minimum of 10 of your GCSE grades at 9 or 8. So that's sort of A-star level to go for the equivalent. That's, again, it's a really interesting one for a school like Peters, where well over 3/4 of all grades will actually end up being an A-star and A grade, and a very, very high proportion of pupils do end up with all their grades clustered around there. So keeping that broad. You may also be aware, of course, there are the one area where we do provide is in terms of music awards, and obviously MK, Mr. Mars Kingston, would be a good person to ask for that. But if anybody wants to come and have a further conversation about that, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. Going back into the courses, I know the courses don't include law. Does that hinder any further options of law at university? Not at all, and indeed may actually help and assist in that one. It's one of the old cliches is that many of the universities, especially the more competitive ones, actually prefer pupils not to have studied law as an A-level subject, even though it is available there before coming on through. Some of the best subjects for preparation for law would be arguably the humanities-based subjects. Religious studies is actually a fantastic one in terms of sort of debate and discursive writing and so forth. So a really good, strong program of the A levels that you're interested in will be a very good platform for study of law at university. And is PE still part of the timetable despite the increase in academic workload? Ella, can I bring you in on that one?
Yeah. PE is one of the A-level options you can take. In terms of your games, then yes, it's still part of the timetable. So there are still the activities, the co-curricular options that you take. So you still Wednesday, Saturday afternoons, alongside practices, say Monday, Friday. So it's still part of the timetable in that sense, but not part of the timetable as it would have been a subject in the timetable. And so
in the way that you're used to in the sort of third form through to fifth of having sort of your games afternoons and then PE in the timetable, PE comes out of the timetable, although obviously the co-curricular then carries on running as normal. I hope that's clear. Right. We don't have any further questions coming. I'll I'll try and do a slightly better job than Boris Johnson did of sort of filling dead air. So I promise not to talk about Peppa Pig to you, and so making comparisons about how. If you haven't seen this, by the way, do have a quick Google on the BBC News website at the moment. A really quite an amusing peroration from Boris Johnson on Peppa Pig looking like a Picasso hairdryer and all sorts of things that just seemed to prop into his head when he was talking about the future of British business. Right, that's sort of stalling for time. Doesn't seem to provoke any more questions either. So before I do lurch into anything as random as that, we'll draw it to a close there. This has been recorded this evening as well. So if you want to play back any of the questions, any of the Q&As, then you're welcome to do so. So final sort of things from me would be, first of all, thank you to Ella and to Sarah and to Duncan for giving up your time to be here this evening. Thank you for coming in from home. I hope it's been useful. A few last pointers. This is not your only option. There's loads of options in terms of getting advice and talking to us about how to make the choices. And there's actually quite a long way to go between now, and especially when it comes to questions come in, especially when it comes to the final choices. Because one sort of thing which I'm not sure we've mentioned is that you will be asked to make choices now, and we will actually construct the timetable based around the choices that you make. And we've not to date found that to be a problem. We've been able to accommodate. I mean, literally one in 2 years. 1 in 2 years. So one person in 2 years. We've really struggled to accommodate the various options. You may, of course, find that as you go through this year, indeed, even after results day, you may sort of find that your choices do change and alter. And Mr. Gillies and his colleagues there, ordinarily, we can almost always sort of accommodate shifts and changes. So do not feel that you're being asked to lock in stone something in which you're going to be required to do when you finally get there. So I'm just scrolling down. We will send a link to the recording tomorrow. So we've got that one there. And the rest are just really lovely. Well, thank you very much indeed. That's really kind. Lovely seeing you all, and thank you very much indeed. All the very best.